Welcome to TSM 348 on week 6, Hospitality and Tourism Management. Um, and this week, we'll be looking at the economics of hospitality and travel industry, where the growth of the industry needs and the travel patterns, ethnic restaurants will be discussed. We also be looking at the pricing system on the hospitality and travel industry, where supply characteristics, the pricing structure, demand character, and market structure, impact of price on the life cycle of a product will be discussed. And we'll be examining the objectives, where the term tourism and why people are usually motivated to travel, where we'll be explaining the growth in the hospitality and tourism industry, where we'll be looking at the impact of travel pattern and changing modes of travel in the industry. We also be discussing pricing system in the context of true perspective. We will try to name the characteristics and the supply and demand. We will look at their characteristics. We also compare the market structure and pricing structure. This will be seeing in this week 6. So I'm inviting you to join me as we go through this course together, and we will have a very great interaction as we are doing this. So I welcome you to this week as I remain my humble self, Dr. Obinna Ugochukwu Alex-Onyeocha, your facilitator, taking you on TSM 348. Thank you and welcome.
All right. We'll begin to look at tourism. Tourism as it relates the activities um, of economy, and we'll look at the tourists uh, that produced a lot of economic impact beyond their expenditures. A tourist spends more money on traveling, accommodation, and feeding. Now, the money comes back and be recycled by the hospitality industry business to buy more goods, thereby generating more use of money. Meanwhile, the employees of the industry that serve the tourists spend most of their money locally on various goods and services within the industry. The chain reaction continues until is a linkage when money is used to buy commodity outside the industry. So domestic and international travelers spend about 500 billion dollars on travel related expenses. These expenses include accommodation, feeding, and entertainment. In United States, the hospitality and tourism industry support more than 200 million jobs worldwide, and this figure represents about 12% of the global workforce. It employs about 1 out of every 10 workers, making it the largest employer and also the largest industry. In the hospitality and tourism industry, there is what is called the holiday market. This market is characterized by a hunger to escape from climate, work pressure, the need to change the environment away from the familiar serene and sometimes event the people around you do. Preferred destination could offer outdoor recreation, sports, entertainment, celebrating festival, swimming and sun tanning, hiking and biking, or sometimes just touring through the country. This need for holiday making is just like the need for variety in food we eat. Sometimes it might be, it might just be anywhere. The holiday market then cannot be ignored as economic booster to the industry. The growth of the industry. The hospitality industry, which comprise the management of the hotels, motel, clubs, restaurant, fast food establishment, and also the travel industry, has has seen a very rapid growth from the humble beginning as a noble way of catering for the need of travelers to becoming the biggest industry in the world. The travel industry relates the closest to 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 the hospitality industry. That is why it is always connected to the tourism industry. It is because of traveling that the hospitality and tourism industry is in business. The travel industry has gone through an evolution that has caused fundamental changes in the hospitality and tourism industry. During the early 90s, the majority of the hotels were located close to the rail station because the primary mode of transportation was by rail. But the late 40s and 50s, when the automobile was used by the increased number of people, the hotels were located in areas around the highway and the system of building automatically changed to suit the family since the automobile encouraged family traveling. It also had to be built to make provision for car park. The most interesting part of the hotel evolution was the intervention of the airplane. So the invention of the airplane came in. The industry witnessed a rapid growth, and because of the speed of travel, the number of people an aircraft can carry, hotel had to adjust. Hotel had to be larger to cater for tourists and the business men also. Some hotels were built to in close proximity to the airports. Needs and travel pattern. There are many reasons that create the need for people to travel. There are two major reasons why people travel. These are for the pleasure and business. Some of these reasons why people travel for pleasure and visit friends and relations, sports, enlightenment, education, shopping, festivals, attraction, ecotourism, etc. According to Harris in 2004, the motivation of pleasure travel can be classified under five sets of basic needs. And we talk about the psychological needs, which is food, water, oxygen, etc. Safety needs, security, stability, order, protection. We also look at love need, affection, identification, belonging. We look at the esteem need, self-respect, prestige, success. We also look at self actualization need, which is self fulfillment. There are other motivation in traveling, which can be classified into four groups, namely the physical motivator, which comprise of the physical rest, sporting, and beach activity, help, uh, helpful and realizing entertainment. Cultural motivation. These include the desire and the knowledge of other people's culture. For example, their music, arts, folklore, dance, painting, song, religion. The interpersonal motivation. These include the desire to meet friends and new people. The status and prestige motivator. This motivational factor is the desire for recognition, attention, appreciation, and good reputation. The second major reason why people travel is for business. About half of all airline travel is done by business travelers. Business varies according to the destination. Therefore, a good portion of business travelers can be missed with pleasure. For 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 example, a trip to Europe can involve contacting a potential customer, but it can also allow for sightseeing. Although the business traveler do not stay as long as the leisure traveler, they tend to spend more money and also travel further. Business has increased in the recent time because of the increasing number of convention centers and more efficient ways of traveling. Also, business travelers have given a boost to the hotels, restaurant, and auto rental companies. Most hotels located near convention centers or conference halls run a higher occupancy. For most organizations, the third highest controllable expenses is the business travel and entertainment. Ethnic restaurant. The ethnic restaurants are known by other names, but are seldom referred to as ethnic restaurant. They, they exist all around and we usually patronize them. These restaurants also bring about the global culturalization. Apart from technology, migration, and other events that brings about a common culture to different areas of the world, the ethnic restaurant is another integral part of the element that bring people of different cultures together in order to appreciate a particular culture. Majority of majority of them are independently owned and operated. The owners and their families provide something different for the adventurous dinner and or a taste of home for those of the same ethnic background as the restaurant or their owners. The traditional ethnic restaurant sprang up to cater for the taste of various migrant groups. Important prominent were the Chinese, the Italian, and Mexicans. Here we have Chinese restaurants, we have Italian restaurants. All those things are ethnic restaurants. Now, if you go outside the country, you hear them talking about African restaurant. Recently in America, we began to have the Nigerian restaurant. Those are ethnic restaurant. Perhaps for the faster growing segment of the ethnic restaurant is in the United States of America. By popularity wise, it is that of the Mexicans. So Mexican food is heavily represented in the southern west states of the United States of America. However, it is the near market saturation that its chain are spreading easily. There are some so also great varieties of ethnic restaurants in major cities all over the world, and their popularity is on the increase. For instance, in every city in Nigeria and any part of the world, one can easily find Chinese, Italian restaurant, and French spots. Um, there are cities that also cultivate the and sell special raw food stuff to particular nationalities instead of importation, and this makes it easy for the foreign nationals to just go to the market, buy and prepare their dishes. Example can be found in the Lebanese shop. They are lucky enough to be able to buy fresh ingredients and spices for meals. Another very good example is found in the street of London, where there are numerous Nigerian restaurants to choose from. The economic impact. The World Travel and Tourism Council in Brussels is an organization that undertakes the study from the Wharton Economic Focusing Association. Now, their, their Their exports puts a total gross output for travel and tourism at the 3.8 trillion dollars in 1978, and estimated it would be 7.1 trillion in 2007, and more than 10% of world growth national product, the GNDP. The the World Travel and Tourism Council says that the study grows about twice as fast as the world GNP, according to uh, uh, data in 2023. The total world spending of the industry takes place in Europe is about 13%, while 30% is on the North American continent. International arrivals, according to the World Tourism Organization, in 1996 were 592 million, and it is estimated that by the figure will reach 702 million in the year 2000, 1 billion in the year 2010, and 1.6 billion in the year 2020. There was an estimate of 46 billion overseas residents that visited the United States in 1994. All the states published their own tourism economic impact. Example, New York estimated its tourism revenue to be about 36.7 billion dollars. Florida was about 49.3 billion dollars. Texas was 31 billion dollars, and California was a little above 50 billion. In Hawaii, the biggest industry is the tourism industry, which with revenues of 21.9 billion. So let's stop at the next station to refuel the tank. Let's have an interaction a little bit to what we have done. Let's examine the needs and travel pattern. So let's talk about it. Let's understand what it is all about. Now we look at the pricing system and the hospitality and tourism uh, travel industry. The analysis of pricing system in the context of the hospitality and tourism industry can be carried out from two perspectives. First is to establish a single price for single item or commodity, that is hotel, accommodation, or airfare, at a given period of time. Because of because this is because for simplicity to the literature most familiar form, we assume that the hospitality and tourism industry is a single product industry. The second perspective is to perceive pricing as a system and a combination of interacting factors and to some extent and circumstances. However, rather than being constrained only by a single pricing structure that clears the market for a single commodity at a particular given time, the approach here considers multi-forces that interact on the issues of providing services characterized by the hospitality and tourism industry. This is because price is not assumed to be an independent variable determined by the factor of supply and demand, but as a dependent variable that is affected by supply and demand factors. The pricing system are complex. Here, the issue is mainly concerned with the economic side that affect price and are also affected by price. As as we all probably know, price are functions of interaction of supply and demand, which is what really matters. In other words, you should be interested in knowing the economic characteristics of both supply and demand. Look at the characteristics, supply characteristics. Traditionally, economic theory has it that supply is determined by the production cost and the structure of the market within which a firm operates, and which uh, which which in turn affects the amount of profit over costs that are charged. So supply normally reflects the cost of production within a time frame. These costs are assumed to be the price of actors of production, which include labor, capital, entrepreneurship, and other resources. So costs are subdivided into fixed and variable, or average and marginal. As a true as is true of the industry, the service of the hospitality and tourism industry reflect within a time frame. Price of price of the factors of production where cost are uh, paid as fixed and variable and or average or marginal. The, there are numbers of characteristics that make the hospitality and tourism industry service unique. Though complicated, these uh, these brief these are briefly discussed as in capital intensive and fixed costs. The hospitality and tourism is a capital intensive industry. Now, substantial amount of capital are invested in the structure, that's building equipment and internals. You can see the type of hospitality facilities around the world, around the globe. So those are amount of money, substantial amount of money that is being consumed. These costs are usually greater than labor costs because of their divisibility. However, if the capital are efficiently and effectively managed per unit, costs can decrease, thus resulting to increase in profit. 2. Continuity and reliability factor. The hospitality and tourism industry must operate for 24 hours a day, 30 days a month, and 365 days a year in order to sustain and maintain high level of reliability. Therefore, the service must be on a continuous basis. Labor and responsibility. Because of the requirement for continuity and reliability, the hospitality and tourism labor is quite different from those of other industries, since its service are based on a 24-hour schedule throughout the year. Other major characteristics of the industry in the hospitality and tourism industry is that it operates within the constraints of a number of three main cycle, namely long planning cycle, which is usually done well in advance of both long production and capital cycle. For example, changes in capacity with regards to both supply and demand requires long-term planning which has to be carefully considered. A long production cycle is essential, uh, particularly with regards to the construction of a hotel, hiring of employees, services to be rendered, and maintenance of the structure and infrastructure. The capital cycle, which is the last one, is based on a long term basis since a hotel cycle is 50 years. Also, sink or sunk cost is a characteristic of the hospitality and tourism, in this sense that it is substantial amount of capital cost involved to start up production and a subcategory of fixed costs which can be referred to as the existence of a few alternatives for a given capital set. This point has been pointed out by Arrows in 1992 and Hell in 2005. Pricing structure. Individual firms place strong emphasis on efforts to market their services by a way of product differentiation. However, price action will sometimes be undertaken, and price is an important part of the market effort. Therefore, it is worthwhile to concern ourselves with the economic of the pricing decision in passenger transport. The economic of pricing in passenger transport involve three interrelated concepts: differential pricing, the contributory theory, and the incremental concept. In all instances, these applied economic concepts are used only as guideline, and managerial judgment are the final decision-making factor as to price-making decision. Price can start in a very simple manner. The oligopoly possesses considerable market power and can maximize demand curve by creating several price structures. The economic power is reinforced by legal pricing making and the Bureau of Conference making giving the legal power, and if the firm indeed move in the concert with parallel action, the industry can establish not one but several separate supply curves. Geographical, Geographically, this is illustrated in down and literally the development has resulted to three price for three supply curve. Here, the firm we offer three separate services at three separate price and take advantage of the largest portion of the demand curve than a single price would permit. The implication here is that the firm has what it called differential pricing, and several classes of services are supplied, each slightly different from the other and each at separate price. This essentially is what is done when first class tourists and economic class services are offered by airline. Many factors are considered and used to classify customers, but basically they turn on the various elasticity of demand noted earlier. When considering factors of potential substitutability, management can establish a low price where potential sustainability and suitability is high. A, an intermediate price and also a high price where potential substitutability can be low. And characteristics. Demand characteristics. As in supply, there are also a number of characteristics that are features of demand when considering pricing in the hospitality industry. These are instantious, extreme variability, multiplicity, intermodal and intramodal competition, and elasticity and interclass competition and elasticity demand. As it is obtainable in many service industry, the demand for these services of the hospitality and tourism can be both uh, immediate and instantaneous. For instance, of these are being experienced in hotel reservation, pleasure cruise, and air flights. Instantaneous demand can cause problem for the industry as a whole or the firm or agency supplying the services. When faced with such problem, there is need for management to provide sufficient capacity to handle the situation, just in case and to be sure. Demand can also be extreme and viable, as well as all service providing industries suffer from peaks and valleys, or high season and low seasons. In other words, demands vary during the hours of the day, days of the week, and weeks of the month, as well as seasons of the year. This situation can lead to multiplicity of demand, which may be segmented and carefully analyzed not only on the basis of peak and valley, but also on the basis of frequency, motivation, and responses to price. A characteristics A characteristics of demand for service of the hospitality and tourism industry are intermodal and intramodal. The former demand is based on the availability and opportunity to substitute one mode of accommodation or flight, as the case may be, with another. This type of demand takes cognizance of price and service of competitors. In the case of the latter, the competition is within the same firm or agency that provide the service. Although in this case the price element matters, but the condition of service count more. A further characteristics of demand is interclass, which is the basis of which is based by specific agencies. Example: the 5-star versus a 3-star hotel. Note that no single demand is made or involved, but rather it is specific for the service and the class. Market structure. Market structure can be referred to as a system and a model whose attributes can be predicted. Economists, however, classified the market structure based on the characteristics of pure competition, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and pure monopoly below. The behavior of a firm or industry can be predicted once the structure of the market has been established. Furthermore, economists have taken cognizance of three major factors while considering uh, classifying market structure. These are entrance exit behavior, number of seller and buyer, and the product characteristics. Also, modes of economic behavior has been theorized and developed by economists and applied to practical businesses and economic situation. The figure we're about to see shows us what we so we can see the characteristics of the market structure, which we have the pure competition here, and we have number of firms which is many. It is homogeneous in nature, and market entrance and exit is free. We have the monopolistic competition, we have which is many, and products are differentiated. Exit characteristics and entrance is relatively easy. We have the oligopoly, which have few number of people. It is heterogeneous in nature and differentiated. So we have relatively difficulties in entering the market. We also have pure monopoly, where we have only one person in the firm. The products cannot be indifferent, it remains the same. Market exit and entrance is closed. So these all are considered in business. But the hospitality and tourism belong to one type of market structure, which is the oligopoly, where we are constrained to carry out an analysis of the three market classification. According to an oligopoly, has the following element or characteristics. It has few firms, each products are differentiated, there is free entry and exit through though sometimes difficult. Also, economists have established an economic theory known as a kinder demand, which has been demonstrated for the industry through a demand curve. Incidentally, no firm has an individual demand curve, only which such a firm has differentiated product, as it is in the case of the firm in the hospitality and tourism industry. This is because in the industry, products are differentiated, particularly by the services the firm in the industry provide, which are normally distinctive, though competitive in nature. A major feature of the uh, kindred demand is the firm price policy, in which a decrease and increase in price by any of the firm will equally be matched by all its competitors, although such a change can lead to little share in the shape of overall market. So we are seeing the Kindle demand curve of oligopolistic industry. So we can see our demand, we can see our price, we can see our quantity. So that shows us how the market is. We have the impact of the price on the life cycle of the product. The impact of price on the life cycle of the product. All products and services are at some stage in the product life cycle, just as human go through the life cycle from birth, introduction, growth, maturity, and the decline stage, which is just what you are seeing before you there in the graph. And an example of the product that was introduced a few years ago and has a very quick growth rate, and early maturity and rapid decline was the disco. However, to a large extent, sports bar and coffee houses have taken over disco club. Price plays an important role in purchasing decision, as it has been learned from experience. Accordingly, a lot of guests are price sensitive. As the old saying goes, there is no royalty that a small amount of money will not change. This simply means that if the other restaurant across the road offers the same service of product in a small amount than the uh, less than they will still they will still get the business. Um, the 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 things like value are usually linked with price. People only purchase a particular product or service if they feel that they are good in value. Thus, the closer the price is to the value, the more likely the guest will be satisfied and will return. Pricing in the hospitality and travel in the recent years has an interesting effect on the consumer behavior. About a decade ago, the hospitality enterprise increased price and still found out that guests kept coming. This way, this was because most business were liberal with experience expense amount accounts uh, that enabled executives to stay in better hotel and entertain clients in expensive restaurants. In the late 80s, for instance, tax deduction of business expenses for restaurant meals were reduced to 80% combined with the reception. So, recession brought about the reductions. These measures had a profound effect on restaurant business. On restaurant Business dropped off as guests that were spending money on dining downplayed it to mid mid-priced restaurant, while the mid-priced clientele moved into quick service sector. Below shows the stages in the product cycle. What you are seeing here before you, we have uh, the sales rate profit, we have the introduction, we have the growth stage where we begin to have sell, we have the revenue, which we have the maturity. Now we have the peak point where we will now be looking at profit and margin. We also began to see decline where the business has started falling or people are moving away from the purchases. Then we have abandonment. That is a life cycle. It in a different shape that we can see the introduction, the growth, the maturity, and the decline. And that is how it moves. And you can see the line bar shows us the time. So when we started, when we began to grow, when we have reached everything peak, and we also fall, that is how it moves. And having done that, it has been a nice. So working as a team makes the job lighter. Let's set the blocks. This is a class activity. So what is the essence of pricing system in the hospitality and travel industry? Let's also interact on this. Having done that, I want to say thank you so much for participating and listening carefully. I wish you very good day.